Home is where the heart is. Home is where the heart is. Wow. So home is the body. Home is the body. Give me body. Home is the body, and home is where the heart is. The song goes, use your heart and not your mind. And I think that's a powerful statement because, just using myself as a test subject, many thoughts go through my mind. And oftentimes, the things that I think, I know that they are not my thoughts, or I have to discard some of those thoughts, right? Those thoughts are not progressive, right? So I have to change my mind concerning, some of the things I think. I guess my question is, where do thoughts come from, that you don't agree with? Like, if you're not creating them, if you don't agree with a thought, but if a thought comes to your mind, where does it come from? Where does it come from? Does it come out of the thin air? Are those thoughts in the air, in the atmosphere? It very well may be. Once incarcerated, I noticed, I was in a hole one time, and I noticed that, most of the brothers that was in solitary confinement were taking medication, some type of medication, and usually that medication was some type of, psychotropic, drug. And what I noticed, being in the vicinity of these brothers or being locked up with these brothers was that, most of them were very intelligent. That's one thing that I noticed. They was very intelligent, even though they didn't look that way, the exterior, right? They didn't look that way. Phenotypically, you wouldn't have thought that they were, so versed in so many different subjects and were able to, have conversations concerning, multiple different things. You know what I'm saying? So one of the things I noticed initially were these guys was very smart. Very sharp. All right. Because they say smart, when you look up the word smart in the etymology dictionary, it means to be dull. Right. And we know a dull knife don't cut nothing. Right. You have to be You have to be sharp. Right. But I noticed that they were sharp. And, I also noticed that when most of them would act out, they will all act out at the same time. It was like a signal went off, like a communication was transmitted, and they will all, sometimes work together, and creating dysfunction, right? Whether it was flooding or, doing other weird things, right? Just to, make the staff uneasy. But what I noticed is, again, they would all start acting out at the same time. And it dawned on me. Right? And it dawned on me, I said, where is this transmission coming from? Where are these thoughts coming from where everybody that's taking these drugs obviously is on the same frequency, correct? So where is this transmission coming from? And one day I was looking out of the window and I seen a radio tower outside. And as I was looking at the radio tower, I noticed that, it dawned on me, right? It dawned on me, right? The dawn ushers in the sun, right? The break of dawn, right? It ushers in, the sun. That's what the dawn does. The dawn is not the sun, but it ushers it in, right? But it dawned on me that those communication towers, that transmission tower that I seen outside, was not just for, communicative purposes concerning, communicating with police officers or ambulances and things of that nature. I realized just sitting there looking at the antenna, I realized that it was a situation where Maybe that antenna is not just communicating, communications to public public officials or public service or paramedics and police officers and things of that nature. I say it must be a situation where those antennas are also communicating thoughts. Communicating thoughts, over vast ranges, you know what I'm saying? I've known some people and myself as well, when I was in the military, I was what you call I was a radio operator, which is considered a communicator, right? So I understand, ultra low frequencies or, high frequency HF or UHF, right? ELF frequencies, right? So on and so forth, right? And I realized that, in having conversations with, people who worked in our public service, 911 and things of that nature, I noticed that it was a situation that where most of your shootings start to occur, they all happen at the same time. The switchboards light up at the same time. There's shootings everywhere, right? And I realized that it's a situation where maybe this behavior is being transmitted. How? Based on what frequency the people are on. When you go into most of our communities, our people are eating, for the most part, eating the same foods. Everybody is not doing drugs, right? But most of them are eating the same foods. And I realized that it must be a situation where, these pharmaceutical companies and, these tech companies have figured out how to, engineer behavior based on, introducing, mediums that, vibrate on certain frequencies to the people through the food that they're eating, the food and the water that they're drinking. I mean, if this is the case, who's the culprit in this matter? Is it the perpetrator? Is the perpetrator a perpetrator, or is the perpetrator a victim? And most of the music and the movies and things that we listen to or we look at, people don't understand that that's programming. When you come home from work and you sit down and take your shoes off and kick your feet up and turn on the television, you're watching a program, right? You're watching a program. So essentially you're being programmed. Where I learned not long ago that, when watching a movie, especially in the theaters, you think you're watching one picture, but you're actually watching 27 frames or 27 different pictures per second, where the movie visually is speaking to your conscious mind. However, those frames, even though they're transmitting so fast so that that you don't even notice them, they're communicating with your subconscious mind. So here's a situation where you're being programmed, right? And I realized that programming is very important. Depending on what program you're on, what frequency you're vibrating on, depends on, what's suggested to you. And this is just not from visual movies. This is also, true in the music. A lot of times the music, our music, especially hip hop music and things of that nature, it depicts, real life, right? Real life situations, but usually those situations are negative, negative situations. But hearing those suggestions over and over and over and over and over and over and over again, it's a situation where, even if you're not whatever the suggestion is, it can program you to be just that. right? Especially if you're vibrating on the frequency of that particular music, right? Use your heart and not your mind. I mean, but what is the heart? The heart is a musical instrument, correct? In fact, they say all our organs are musical instruments where all of our organs vibrate, pulsate at a certain frequency, including the heart, right? Well, they say the heart's not really pumping. Well, it's doing something, right? It's doing something. It's pumping. It's doing something. You know, I know it don't stop. Whatever it's doing, don't stop. Get it, right? You know, and watching some of the Marvel movies, Iron Man has nanoparticles in his chest. Nanoparticles in his chest, where, you know, that those nanoparticles, you know, emit, you know, a certain light or a certain frequency. And I think those movies are subliminally telling us that that's just what our heart is, you know, which is why the song says, use your heart, you know, and not your mind, because, you know, many things can be suggested to you on the surface programming, right? But you have to know within, you know, within yourself, within your heart, you know, what's right and what's wrong. And a lot of times we don't have to be taught that. Again, we know what's right, what's wrong, if we, you know, as long as we're in tune, right? Yeah, we in tune. But if we out of tune, and nobody wants to hear somebody sing out of tune, you know, you want to be in tune, right? Or even if it's different pitches, you know, those pitches have to, you know, correspond with each other to create a harmony, right? You know, to create music, right? You know, a sweet sound that's enjoyable, like not chaotic, right? I'm sitting here at the park and I'm watching the ducks, and I'm thinking to myself, I say, where do ducks live at? You know, ducks live anywhere that they want to, right? Any body of water that exists on the planet, a duck can, you know, live there or frolic there, right? You know, bathe there, eat there, right? And it doesn't cost them anything. It's free. It's free. I mean, if I could be a duck, I mean, they eat for free. They bathe for free. They don't pay for water. You know, they drink water. You know, it's free. Whatever they eat, you know, it's free. And they always together. You don't, you know, you rarely see a duck by himself. He's always with a partner, right? Where they understand, you know, community and being communal and sticking together and working together. You know, not just working together, but you know, relaxing together, eating together. Again, if only I could be a duck. Well, if only I could sit here and watch the ducks and not have to worry about paying to live somewhere, paying for food, paying for water, paying for clothing. And many will say, well, that's just how it is. And why does it have to be that way? Who created it? I mean, before, you know, quote unquote money existed as we know it, I mean, what did people do? They hunted their own food, right? They made their own clothes, right? They grew their own crops, right? You know. And don't get me wrong, it's nothing wrong with the service industry, you know, because that's just what it is. It's providing a service, servant service. It's providing a service. You know, I think the only thing that, bothers me with the service industry now is, the mentality or the philosophy or the ideology concerning how it's supposed to work has been flipped upside down. I see a lot of quote unquote entrepreneurs, and in their sales pitch, it's as if they're doing the people a favor, when that's not true. The people could make their own clothes, but because you're making it, it's a situation where it's more convenient, and they don't mind paying for your services, right? Don't mind paying for the services as long as it's reasonable, right? As long as the market has created a climate to where everybody agrees that whatever the price is for your services is amicable, then it's okay. But what about when the prices become exuberant to where you have to rob Peter to pay Paul, and it's a situation where you can't feed your kids and things of that nature because the wage that you're making, right, it's not enough. It's not enough. It's not balancing out. Even in getting 2 and 3 jobs, it's still tough, right? Tough money, right? How do we fix it? How do we fix it? I was told once that some of the smartest people on the planet are homeless people. And a lot of times we look down on homeless people, but I have been out amongst, society or amongst the homeless for less than 24 hours. And I'm telling you, this is not an easy thing. It's not an easy thing to be homeless. Why do they consider, homeless people some of the smartest people on the planet? I was told that a lot of homeless people have, participated in the quote unquote American dream. A lot of them have owned businesses and own homes and cars and things of that nature, and they became dissatisfied with it. They realized that it was a racket. If you talk to most of them, especially the ones that's living off the grid and tents and things of that nature, they'll tell you that they, don't think that it's right to have to pay to live somewhere. And I know a lot of people disagree with this. Man, you got to pay. Come on, man. Tighten up, family. You got to pay like you weigh. But I think a lot of times we speak concerning things without having information, or correct information, no formation, right? We have to get out of formation. When we get out of formation and, then, peer in or look at what's going on, we realize that something's wrong. I don't think people would have an issue with paying or quote unquote paying, right? Because technically the way the system works, you can't pay anything because we live in a debt system. It's a debt system. And I hear a lot of people talking about my credit score. I got a 750. I got a 800. And I'm like, that's not a credit score. That's a debt score, because it indicates how well you manage debt. I've never seen anybody with a 750 or 800 credit score who didn't have a mortgage, who didn't have a car payment, who wasn't balancing credit cards, right? So they're managing a quote unquote credit score is really a debt score, and they are managing how well you manage debt. Because you can have a 750 credit score, but that don't mean you can get extended $1 million for a house. Because they then do what you call a debt to income ratio, right? Where you still have to make a certain amount of income, right? Income, no money, right? You got the, it's a fictitious system. So technically you can't pay anything because there's no money to pay anything. The only money that ever existed on the planet is silver and gold. And Federal Reserve notes are not backed by silver and gold. It's debt. It's just paper, backed by nothing. Or guaranteed by the people and they don't know it, right? So technically you can't pay anything. You can only discharge it or, offset it, right? If I go into the store and I buy something for $20 and I give them a $20 bill, I'm not paying for that. I'm discharging it. Because a Federal Reserve note is a IOU. It's a promise to pay. I promise to give you something of value when something of value exists. But right now it don't exist. So this is just a system, a bartering system where we're just passing debt around. Just passing debt. Right? And don't get me wrong, in this system that we currently participating in, debt, buys bread. It buys water. You have to get it to, have somewhere to live, right? As far as a dwelling, right? Residence, right? You need debt. But what is debt? Debt is a bill. That's why I'm very conscious of looking at names a lot of times. When I see the name William, that those are red flag for me. And I'm not hating on, the Williams out there. But William is Bill, right? And a lot of times people try to hide their names, But a lot of times our names, indicate who we are. But William is Bill. I've noticed that a lot of prosecutors, solicitors, the males are named William. But William is Bill. And a bill is debt. And if you look up the word debt in the dictionary, the word debt is sin. But I thought Jesus died for our sins. And if Jesus died for our sins, according to the story, why is, the land of the free, home of the brave, trillions of dollars in debt? That don't sound like free to me. That sounds like you owe somebody. But how do you owe someone if you maintain your own treasury? You print your own money, quote unquote. How do you owe somebody? Oh, that's not your money that you're using, right? The Federal Reserve notes, right? That's not money that's coming from the U.S. Treasury. That's money that's being lent to the U.S. Treasury. Who's backing? Who's backing that money? The only people with credit. Us. And what happens when that debt becomes insurmountable? To where the interest is so exuberant that it can't, it's impossible to pay it off. What happens? What happens when the people start waking up and realizing that it's a situation where, we being bamboozled? What happens? Those that run the financial institutions and things of that nature, they have to come up with schemes to lock us up. They have to come up with schemes to eliminate us. Because those that study know that wars, rumors of war, right? War is the killing of the creditor. Well, where we take our young men and women when they turn 18 and we take them down to the recruiting station and they become soldiers. And often they go to war fighting the battles of the country. And oftentimes they are injured or they die. Over things that they don't even understand. Propaganda, lies, when it actually, they're dying because, they're the creditors and they're owed money, and those that have perpetuated this scheme don't want us to find out that we are the creditors, the people. Huey said, power to the who? The power is in people. The power is in people. Why don't we know that we have this power? Because somebody tricked us into going to public school. Our brothers and sisters, right? Because I always ask myself, who are those kids being escorted into schools by the National Guard? Who are those kids? Like, whose kids were those? Because I wouldn't dare allow the Army to usher my, 6 or 7 year old son or daughter into a school where people wanted to hurt them. So who were those kids? Who was the architect of that play? I'm not saying public school is inherently bad, but what I'm saying is, public school is only teaching or educating us concerning one side of the accounting ledger, the public side. It's only educating us concerning the public side. And the danger in this education is the fact that we are identifying as public entities. And anytime you identify as a public entity, a person, a human, an individual, so on and so forth, then you are essentially identifying as the debtor. And now they have switched the position from you being the creditor, the people, and they have switched you to the position of being a person and or debtor. So now you're responsible for the what? For the debt. So homeless people can't explain what's going on. Many of them. I'm not saying all of them can't. But they know something is wrong. Something ain't right? It doesn't pass the smell test. And it's a situation where when many of us, wake up to this information, we get out of formation, right? Oftentimes, we are in the minority where, we are harassed. We are poisoned, right? We are eliminated. We are killed, right? We're made to seem crazy. Sometimes to the very ones that, we grew up with, that we grew up in the same house with, slept in the same bed with. They looking at us sideways. This motherfucker here. This nigga crazy as a bitch. What the fuck is he talking about? Not even knowing that, because you've been indoctrinated and been given false information, you can't even grasp what the facts are. Can't grasp it. And oftentimes that the people that know the real information, you know, they don't have the material possessions, you know, to sell a picture, right? Because the picture got to look good, right? They can't sell us what they're talking about because they're not interested in selling it. They try to give it up for free, right? Because if you give it up for free and everybody knows, then it's a situation where we can't be marginalized and ostracized, and because everybody knows, and if everybody knows, then they have to change the shit because why? They're playing games anyway with us, right? It's not right. But you know, it's just sad that it's a situation where many of our brightest have been, you know, indoctrinated. You know, they've been given a public education and they have no clue that a private side of the accounting ledger even exists. I hear people talking about a private-public partnership, but they never identify who these private people are. And where does private money come from? How was it obtained? And if we are the creditors, then how do we utilize this credit? I've learned personally that many of the commercial banks, which are nothing but middlemen, you know, are not interested in those that understand private money unless you're a certain persuasion, unless you got a certain vouch, certain relationships, so on and so forth, right? You know, you got to be part of the club, right? And if not, you know, they're not fucking with you. And there's many people that have been locked up, you know, from, you know, doing their own due diligence and, you know, figuring things out. And again, because, you know, they're in the minority, they're locked up in jails and prisons, even worse, mental hospitals. Well, some of these people are, you know, they go off the grid and they live amongst the homeless. Why? They don't want to be harassed. They can't take that type of, you know, that type of scrutiny, that type of pressure. You know, family members are threatened, kids, so on and so forth. That's what these devils do. I'm sorry, these vile entities do. Why am I running my motherfucking mouth? Because it's a situation where they have done the same shit to me. You know, I'm just a little stronger than, you know, I can't lift, you know, 400 pounds, but I could, you know, do some other things, right? Right. But we have to all learn this information. Get out of formation, right? Take the uniform off, right? Because they all want us the same. They all want us to be their slaves. And I'm not just talking about Caucasian people. Because I learned or realized a while ago that, you know, the initial slave master was not a Caucasian. I may not understand all the parameters concerning why slavery was invented in the first place, but I know at this particular point it needs to change. And I say, why not be the change? A part of the change, right? If we all have an expiration date, if we all gonna die, then shit. What do we have to lose? Patrick Henry said, give me liberty or give me death. He wasn't playing, was it? He was serious, wasn't he? We have to be serious too. We have to be serious too. We have to learn what's going on. We have to collectively come together and, put these pieces to this puzzle together so we can see the whole picture. Because what I've learned is they have compartmentalized many of these different aspects of, commerce. We got one guy over here, he's an attorney. You got another guy over here, he's a real estate agent. You got another guy in the same office, he's a broker, right? You got another guy over here, he's an accountant. You got another guy over here, he's a CPA. And this game goes on and on and on and on, and it has created a situation where, we're only getting bits and pieces of the puzzle. We only can see bits and pieces based on our education. Where I think it's important to take the mask off or to remove the veil so that we can see the whole thing. And once we see the whole thing, I think it's a situation where things begin to change. But as long as us, are, waiting at the table, not sitting at the table, but sitting under the table and waiting for scraps to be thrown to us, checks, right? Then it's a situation where we're never going to solve this issue. We have to collectively come together. And we have to have a seat at the table, not just be in the room. The butler was in the goddamn room. Want the butler in the room? And what did they tell the butler? What did they tell the butler? You have to almost appear to not even be in the room. You have to be silent. You have to move swiftly, you know what I'm saying? With grace. Even though you're in the room, you're not. Who has time for that shit? I keep seeing the first black this, god damn. Is that always, that's all we want to do is be the first motherfucker to do something? When you look at history, man, motherfuckers, we have been doing this shit forever. In fact, it's our system that's been hijacked, and we've been taught some bullshit. If you do your studies, the Iroquois Constitution, which was an oral constitution, was we the people. They took this oral constitution, tweaked it, and put it on paper, and acting like they've created this shit. The power has always been with the people. That's our information. That's our knowledge. And I'm not saying the knowledge should just be misappropriated, because the scripture says, don't take the children's bread and throw it to the dogs, right? Throw it to the swine. But more of us, those that are responsible, have to understand and learn this information. Why? Because our brothers and sisters are depending on us. We have to stop compromising. We have to stop shucking and jiving and tap dancing and soft shoeing, yeah? Because once we understand this information, it's a situation where, God damn it, you can raise wages now. Keep talking about revenue. Come on, man. Stop it with these fucking games. We have to learn what a budget is. A budget is a fucking conversation at the table. And you only have to raise revenue to offset the budget. So if you got a budget of $1 million, you have to raise revenue of $1 million. Correct? Balance in the budget, right? But if more people understood that they were the creditors, then it would be a situation where that would be nothing. You can raise minimum wage right now. You don't have to wait. In fact, the debt that's owed can be paid or discharged right now. By who? Those who know. Come scream at me, yo. What do you need? What you need, my autograph on that? Come here. Come on, I got you. Don't worry about it. It's nothing. But this is where the racism come in at, because they don't want everybody to have the basic necessities. They want you to, again, rob Peter to pay Paul. They want you to scramble. And maybe it was a reason for that. Because how would you know the right way if you never been taught the wrong way, right? I ain't hating. I get it, I think. But it's time to, do things the right way. And right, R-I-G-H-T, is right. W-R-I-T-E. Correct? Right on, brother. We gotta get this thing right, yeah. And what I'm saying is, I come from a mother who dropped out of high school and a grandmother who had a 9th grade education. And if I could figure this shit out, all you Negroes with all them fucking degrees, temperatures of hell, right? It would be nothing for you to figure this shit out. It takes a little bit of effort. Yes, you have to put your pride to the side, because you may have to be taught by a motherfucker that ain't been to nobody's school, right? I remember hearing Dr. Sebi, and Dr. Sebi said that the reason that he was able to cure AIDS and cure sickle cell and diabetes and, multiple different diseases is the fact that he never went to school. And I thought that was interesting. He said he never went to school. He said the way that he learned was by watching his mother and his grandmother. And I thought that was powerful. He looked at what they did and used his own intuition and realized that he could heal, these ailments using, natural things. Herbs and things of that nature that, the earth provided. Because he's providing a service, it's a charge, but it's not retarded. Like, the cost to treat cancer or the cost to treat diabetes, those costs are, without insurance, Jesus, who could afford that shit? Well, get insurance then. Well, insurance is cool, but we're not gonna sugarcoat this shit, because insurance is one of the biggest fucking schemes and scams that exist on the planet. How? Because it's a situation where you don't understand contract law. You don't understand how to discharge debt. You don't understand the difference between debt and credit. The private-public partnership, right? The scriptures said that, Jesus became so frustrated that he went into the church and he overturned the tables because the money changers or the bankers and things of that nature was operating in, inside of God's house. And they were charging interest, exuberant interest. And he went in there, he turned over the tables, right? He reset the balance, right? The ledgers, right? He zeroed them out, right? He reset them, right? Don't you think it's time for a reset? We grew up playing Nintendo, right? Nintendo, Pretendo, right? And, when we got pissed off because we kept, dying and, failing at different stages, it was a situation where it was a reset button. And when we pushed the reset button, we could do what? Start all over again. And I think it's time for us to start all over again. Don't you think so? Don't we need to push the reset button on this shit? I think it's time. Yeah, I think it's time to push that reset button, yeah. Start all over. Because at first, if you don't succeed, you dust yourself off and try again, right? But we ain't trying this time. We gonna complete the mission. We ain't trying. We gonna do it. Right? But Nike say just do it, right? We gonna do it. Do it. We gonna do it. We gonna do it right. We gonna get this thing right, because like I said earlier, one of the hardest things is to be homeless. I mean, where do they use the restroom at? I mean, they might have clothes, but where do they go and take showers at? When it's inclement weather, what is going on? I took a walk last night. I walked 10 miles last night. I know most people will say I'm a crazy person. But it amazed me how many people was up 12, 1 o'clock at night just trying to figure it out. Sleeping on sidewalks and things of that nature. And we got all these fucking churches. All these churches, and they're closed. They only open for business. But they're collecting money on behalf of Jesus, right? Because they say, the Pope sits in his seat of Peter, right? Because the keys of the church was left to Peter, right? And you're collecting money on behalf of Jesus. And his flock is in disarray. You gonna be pissed when he come back, ain't it? Ain't he gonna be pissed when he come back? And that's why I realized that, most of these imposters who claim to be waiting for Jesus, they're not waiting on him or her to wash their feet. They're waiting to try to kill his ass so they can keep up the same fucking bullshit they got going on. Tell the truth to shame the fucking devil. Or vow. Tell the truth. Tell the truth, y'all. We gotta be honest, y'all. I ain't saying don't make money. I'm saying just what we need to do. Literally make it. That's what they doing. They making that shit. Arts and craft, right? Printing that shit out of thin air. I personally think that the cryptocurrencies and things of that nature that are being, created, especially the decentralized ones, is going to be instrumental in, balancing this thing out. Because it's not centralized. It's decentralized. No centralization, right? It's not a spider organization, right? Where, if you got a spider organization, all you have to do is what? Cut off the head and the body dies. But these decentralized currencies are, starfish entities. And if you cut a starfish in half, that one starfish become two. Those two become four, so on and so forth. You know what I'm saying? So it's a situation where you can't stop it. Don't stop. Get it. But we have to learn this technology. We have to learn it. And we have to introduce this technology to our people because, it's a situation where if the reset button is pushed, and now nobody wants $1, right? Then we're going to have to, use other forms of currency, other mediums, right? And if we don't understand how this technology works, it's a situation where it's going to be it's going to be tough out here. It's going to be tough, So we have to learn this technology because this technology is here for us. And it's going to change things. Yeah, it's going to change things. It's going to change things. For the better. Better bet it, right? It's going to change things for the better, so we have to, get in tune. Attune. Right? We have to get in tune because those nanoparticles in our chest, that heart inside of our chest is really a sun. And they say in the scripture that the Father and Son are what? Are one. So you have the 600-mile sun, the mantle of the earth. You have the sun in your chest and you have the sun in the sky, right? They say it's supposed to be a couple more up there in a few. We gonna see. Yeah, we gonna see. But again, we have to come together. We have to fellowship. We have to put these differences down. We have to, this class bullshit, this racism. You know what I'm saying? I had a opportunity to stay at a hotel this past weekend, and in the area that we live in, this is one of the prestigious hotels that exist, the Cavalier, right? They say former president stayed there. When I talked to the doorman Robert, he was telling me about how Snoop Dogg and he had Kim Kardashian and some of these people stayed there, and I was like, well, goddamn, who the fuck am I? Nobody. I'm not gonna disagree. Beautiful place, I can't tell you about the inner workings, but it was a beautiful place. And then, down the hill you had the mid-range, you had the Marriott, and across from the Marriott you had the Embassy Suites. So you had the lower level, the mid-level, you had the high class, right? Classism. Let me tell you something. Like Father Marshall Bishop, like Father Marshall Bill used to say. Let me tell you something. Ain't no difference in any of that shit. Yeah, the ambiance may be different. The culture may be different. But it's all a scheme or an invention of someone that, decided to provide a service, yeah. And, some service is better than others. Customer service, right? You know that the customer service at Chick-fil-A is, it's better than McDonald's. And I'm not hating on McDonald's. The customer service is a little better at Chick-fil-A. Even if it's, programming, it's a little better, you know what I'm saying? They seem to care, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, they seem to care. I was in a Family Dollar the other day, and the manager who was working the register had a hood on. And I said, what in the fuck is going on? He had a hood on. At the register, a hood. Dude, you hiding for somebody? You want it? Motherfucker. It's the manager. So the only difference is in a lot of these places is the service, And a lot of that shit is just effort. And if it's a situation where the wages are raised, then it's a situation where that service can become universal. No matter where you at, it's just good service. These are things that we can change if we come together. If we pool our resources, our information, you know what I'm saying? And again, that high shit ain't for everybody. Everybody don't want that shit. Some people just want to, live and be comfortable, barbecue, or mildew, you know what I'm saying? They're not interested in all that shit. They're comfortable with a car that works, As long as it works and get me to and fro, it don't gotta be all that, expensive shit, right? I'm not saying that expensive shit is wrong, but yeah, it's not necessary, right? I've learned that, the people on the planet with the most money, with the most access to resources, man, most of them don't even drive cars. Don't drive no damn car. You can't drive a car high. You need a driver, right? Car service, right? To ride public transportation, right? But we are sold these things, and we take these things, hook, line, and sinker, and we think that that's what you're supposed to do when you get bread. You're supposed to have a certain type of house or a certain type of car, or a certain type of clothes, and it's not true. I'm telling you firsthand, the people that have the most they're not interested in that shit. These people they sell us on TV, they're actors, and most of them ain't got no damn money. Not no real money. They have figured out how to manage debt, right? Accumulate debt. I mean, listen to them. Listen to Robert Kiyosaki. Listen to these guys. They tell you how they, quote unquote, became rich by taking on as much debt as they possibly could. You just have to manage it, right? But we start to understand how to manage debt, and we think that's a good thing. Until we can't manage it no more, right? And then you're stuck with all these mortgages and all this insurmountable debt that you can't pay off, and then you want to jump out a window, right? Well, you didn't need all that shit in the first place. Ain't nothing wrong with having a nice house, a nice car, access to resources to be able to do things that you like. There's nothing wrong with that. But we can't get so far gone with this shit that we stop caring about other people, especially those that are homeless. especially those that are homeless. They're not homeless because they're, they're second-class citizens. They're homeless because, it's a situation where the system is damaged. It needs to be corrected. It needs to be reset. And you start to see more and more homeless people, or at least I'm seeing it. I'm seeing more and more now. Which means that things are not getting better. They're getting worse. They're getting worse. Which means what? Somebody gonna have to come along and be instrumental in the change that needs to occur. Are we ready for the change? I mean, I could stand some change in my pocket, a couple dollars, right? So we need to embrace change, not go against it. Again, we're not going to be sitting up under the table waiting for, no, we're not doing it no more. In fact, we don't even need a table. Because I thought our word was our bond. Right? Your word's supposed to be your bond, right? And if your word ain't shit, then you ain't shit. Correct? But we can't take on these pompous attitudes to where we lose touch and we don't care no more. It was a situation where, I was at a club this weekend, or I intended to go into a club this weekend. And, when I walked up to the door, I could feel the energy coming out of the door where the security guard was pulling a guy out of the establishment. And he, had him in the, full Nelson in the chokehold, and he dumped him on the ground. And then this guy's girlfriend came out, and she was, standing by her man, and she was fighting, security, and and the security didn't want to, manhandle her, but they had no choice because, she was striking them and things of that nature. And it got to the point where, a wrestling match occurred, where a few times, she went to the ground, and, it could have been worse. I've seen guys wrestle and people go to the ground and, somebody's head hits the ground, and, next thing you know, they're unconscious, and, they're urinating on themselves and things of that nature. So that could have been a dangerous situation with the wrestling match. But I understood, the whole dynamic watching. But after they calmed down a little bit, they ended up right in front of me. And, I coaxed the security guard amongst other security guards that, that was enough. It was, you couldn't go anywhere from that. Anywhere up from that would have been a disaster, right? So the security guard got up off her, and, the sister was still laying down on the ground. And I proceeded to, assist her in helping her up. And I heard a sister behind me say, "Fuck that bitch. You don't know her. You don't know her. You don't gotta help her," so on and so forth and etc. And I looked back, and it was a sister saying this shit. What did I say? I told the sister to shut the fuck up. And I may have been wrong. I may have used the wrong words. But we have become so detached that we think that we can't help each other if we don't know each other. I wouldn't give a fuck who it was. It's nothing wrong with assisting or aiding this person in getting up off the ground. I'm not going to stand here with the ability to help somebody and don't do it. Why would I do that? Why do we do that? Why do we have the resources to be able to help people, and instead of helping people, we watch them suffer? Where do we learn that shit from? Where are they teaching this fucking ideology at? Shit happens, yo. People fight, People get in the mix, fisticuffs, boxing matches, right? But you don't want nobody to die, right? You know? Right? But when did we learn to become so disassociated that we can't help each other? I wouldn't care what color the sister was. I lose nothing by helping her up. And don't get me wrong, the sister was wrong. And I heard a lot of women out here say, under no circumstances should a man put his hands on a woman. Under any circumstances, it don't matter what she do, a man shouldn't put his hands on a woman. And these same people will sit back and say, don't help. Don't aid people or women in distress, kids in distress. That ain't your family. You don't know them. Fuck them people. We gotta stop that shit, y'all. And I'm talking to myself. I'm not singling nobody out. You know, this is a story where I'm telling this story only for educational purposes, where, you know, it's three sides to every story. You know, everybody has their own perspective, but this was mine. You know, and I just, I've just been thinking about this thing. If we have the power to assist and aid each other, we need to do just that. And we don't lose anything by it, yeah. Yeah, you don't lose anything by helping somebody, by caring. You know. You was wrong. You got a knot on your head, but you know what? Let me put some ice on it. And, you know, there's nothing wrong with that. Aye, brother. Aye, sister. How you doing? What's going on with you? You know, how can I be of service, right? Since you're a public actor, right? How can I be of service? How can I help you? Isn't that what customer service is about? Helping? It's not about making a dollar. It's about, helping. And because the wages are so low, oftentimes you go into these places and people have these attitudes, not because they're disgruntled by nature. It's a situation where this shit has been created. It's been created, y'all. I probably would be pissed off too if I was working somewhere and, I'm making $9 an hour and that shit does not cut it. Especially in a situation where, it could easily be 20 or 25. It could be a livable wage. They can do that. If you don't know how to do that, I can help you figure it out. We can all sit down. Especially you big shots that, got all the motherfucking answers, right? And I'm not saying there's nothing wrong with having the answers, but, those that are, perpetrating to be, financial gurus and things of that nature, well, let's talk about, how to, raise the wages and balance the books to where, it's no debt that exists. It's very possible. It's not a hard thing. In fact, I was told and I've learned that, anything that is difficult is vile. It's usually very simple. It's easy. And if it's complicated, it's something ain't right with it. It needs to be questioned, right? It needs to be questioned. So those with the answers, the AIs, right? The killer crossovers, you know what I'm saying? We need you to come to the forefront. We need you to aid us. Right? We need you to serve us. We need you to make things better so that we all could, at least have the basic necessities. And then we can call, this country great. Amen? Let's do it.